done with 4 units. We'll start with fifth unit. Uh, fifth unit. Fifth unit. Okay. So we'll start with the fifth unit. Fifth unit says about computer security and case study of Linux operating system. So what is security? The security problem we have discussed earlier that each file or directory can be secured by controlling access to them, but total security cannot be achieved by this. So, security violation of the system can be categorized as intentional or accidental. It is easier to protect against accidental misuse. So, malicious access has following forms: unauthorized read of data, unauthorized modification of data, unauthorized destruction of data, preventing legitimate use of the system. So that's what is the security problems we have. So we have so many security problems you can see in the real life also there are so many. So with respect to operating system, how this security problem can be issued or solved. So in this chapter, we'll be discussing about the security problems. So we have discussed so the earlier chapters in the earlier fourth chapter we have discussed about a file and directory. Then how can we secure by controlling access to them? So how we can do the control of that? So in case file or directory. So now you can see everything we can use the authentication. So until unless we know the password, we cannot log in or enter into the thing. So in the same way, everything you can see, you can protect even a Word file, your personal details, everything you can protect. So that's what here each file or directory can be accessed by controlling access to them. But so total security cannot be achieved. Suppose if someone knows my password, then definitely they can use or enter into my data. So then, how do the security violation of the system can be categorized as intentional or accidental? So sometimes the people can access any personal data intentionally. Sometimes maybe by the accidentally we can access. So that's about the security. So then it is easier to protect against accidental misuse. In case unknowingly I have just log in into that. So malicious access has the following forms. So malicious even intentionally. Suppose I want to know what other person is doing. So the same way you can see, if it is a confidential data of country, then we are not allowed. So that's what here malicious. So intentionally, if anybody wants our data to be used, so then that should be protected. So that's what here unauthorized reading of data. So I cannot read data of other persons. So unauthorized. So if I am authorized, then only I can access. If I am unauthorized, I should not use the data or I cannot read. So that's what the malicious access is one form. Another is unauthorized modification of data. So suppose we have personal details, maybe my bank details or anything. So whatever bank balance is there, right? So I can do anything, and the privileges what we would have given is only for the bank. So other persons cannot modify the data. Suppose the software who is developing the software in the bank cannot use or cannot modify that data. So they will be knowing, they will be having access of all this, but even then they should not use or modify the data. Then unauthorized destruction of data. So they cannot delete the data. Also, that is what intentionally if they delete, that is a wrong. So that's what here the third malicious access says to us. And the last one, preventing legitimate use of the system. So in the same way, all these can be happened in the operating system also. That's what I was saying. When we partition the memory, we would have partitioned either C drive, D drive, E drive, or anything. So in that case, so if it is C drive, so in the C drive, generally what we do, generally all people will be doing, will be installing or loading all the related operating system or softwares. So in case intentionally or unknowingly, if you delete any of the file, whatever you have installed, then definitely your operating system or the software will not work. So to give access or to have all these control, we need something called as a security, and that should be issued or solved. So that's what the security problem says to us. So then to protect the system, so how do we protect? So we must take security measures. So what are the security measures we can take? We have 4 levels. One is physical, one is human, another one is network, and another one is an operating system. So to protect our system. So now I am using my laptop. So how should I protect? So if I take my laptop and throw from here, so will that stay? That definitely will not stay. So then how should I handle? I should handle it very carefully. So that's what is called as a physical. So in the same way, the site or sites containing the computer system must be physically secured against armed or superstitious entry in the introducer. So in the same way, now I am using the lab. So now we are doing all the online classes. So what we give when I invite the people, I will invite only the second semester students. So why not others? So I am restricting, or I don't want others to enter into this. So that's what here, the same way here, physical. So the physical, even the operating system, so whatever we are installing, whatever is there in the hard disk, that should also be secured. So that's what a physical. Then human, who are operating this, I am operating my laptop. So in case by chance, if the power supply is very high, and if I touch my laptop, it gives me a shock, then definitely human beings will not touch. So in that case, what we have to do, we have to secure the system in such a way that even when the human being uses the system or operating system, it should not be spoiled, or it should not trouble the human being. It should be user friendly. So that's what here the second security measure says to us. That is human. So users must be screened carefully to reduce the chance of unauthorizing a user who then gives access to an intruder. So what it is, so now I have my ATM card. I know my PIN and those things. Then I cannot say, or no one should guess my PIN number so that they should not access my ATM card. That's what here, same way here, even in the operating system also, we have to take care of security measures. Next one is network. So data being transferred via network is prone to attack. So now I am sending, how we are doing online classes, we are doing through the online classes. So then I send all my notes, everything here. So in that case, what we do, we use a network. So in case if I don't have a LAN, if I don't have an internet connection, then I cannot conduct classes, online classes. And along with that, if I don't have system or laptop, then also I cannot conduct online classes. Okay. Along with this, if I keep saying, if I don't show you anything without using PPT, or if I start saying something at least in online class, it will be very boring to you. So the same way here, the network data being transferred via network is prone to attack. So that's what here. Some people will be saying, I don't know who has used what. So that's what, there are so many problems. There are hackers who can hack our networks. So that's the thing, even that network should also be protected. So now I am using Google Meet. So how far we can say? So you would have seen in earlier days, some months back, we were using a Zoom app, and we have known that Zoom app was not secured and the data was being hacked. So it was not completely the whatever the software or whatever the network app we were using, that we have come to know that it was not secure, and we have stopped using the Zoom. So that's how the network data should also be secured, so that no one should hack whatever we are right now conducting a class, something like this. So that's what about network. This is a third level of security measure which we have to take care for the operating system for the security. And the last one is the operating system. The system must protect itself security breaches. So in the same way, operating system, when we say it is an operating system, Not only all these other three, that is physical, human, and network, not only these should have a security, but also the operating system should also have a security thing. It should be checked so that the operating system, whatever I install, suppose let me say we are using a Windows, and you want some software, and you have installed some software, and we should take care in such a way that when I am installing, the operating system files should not be corrupted or it should not be damaged. So these are some of the security measures we have to take care when we are using the operating system. Not only operating system, anything. So that's what here, to protect the system, we must take security measures at 4 levels. One is physical, another one is human, another one is network, other one is a operating system. So these are the 4 measures we have to take care for the security. So next we move on to user authentication. So what is user authentication? So the major security problem for the operating system is authentication. The protection system depends on an ability to identify the programs and process currently executing. Generally, authentication is based on one or more of the 3 items: user possession, a key or a card, user knowledge, identifier or a password, user attributes, fingerprint, retina, etc. So these are some of the items or authentication based we are using. So first one is user possession. So what is that? A key or a card. So in case now when you have your ATM card, then what is the authentication you have? You insert a card and you should know the PIN number, and that PIN number should not be accessed by anybody else. So that's what is one thing, that is a user authentication. So next one, user knowledge. So identifier or a password. So the same way when we are logging into any Gmail account or anything, so then what we are doing, we are using a passwords. And how should we keep the password? Password should, so that we should not say my name or my birth dates, something that you should not keep as a password, so that anybody can access your data or use your data. So that's what the authentication also, when we are giving the password, we should take care what type of password, so that no one can hack or no one can use your system. And the other one is user attributes. So sometimes now you can see in our college we were using a fingerprint to monitor at what time we have come to the college, and other details. There we are using a fingerprint. We are keeping our fingers. When then the system will accept or identifies our finger, and it records at what time we have entered into the college. So that is one attribute. So in the same way, retina. So I can stand in front of the system and say that I am present. So in this case, retina is one where it will track and stores the data when I am entered. And one more, signature. So now what we have done, because of the coronavirus, we have gone back, because using a fingerprint biometric thing, it is becoming a problem, because all the staff start using it. So it should not spread from one to other. That's what the older versions we have started. That is what is called as a signature. So we have a ledger where at what time we come, we keep the signatures on that. So that's what a user authentication. These are some of the authentications where we use to say that the major problems for the security can be reduced. And next is a password. So how should we make password? Passwords are used to protect the data in the computer when there are no complete protection scheme. User is asked to provide the username and the password during the access. If the password matches with one stored in the system, access is allowed. In the same way, anywhere, any system you can see, there will be a server, and all initial data, whatever we store, it will be present in the server. And that server, whatever we are doing that server, that will be using it. And what we do, we enter the name as well as the password. So initially starting, we give some password, and that will be stored in the server. And next time when I am started using it, it should match my password what already I have stored. So if it is matching, then only I will go to the next screen. If I am giving a wrong thing, then it will not enter into the next screen and it will give us some chance. So it may say that you can try for one or two trials. So even after two trials also, if I am not using or if I am not giving a correct password, then that will be blocked. So in the same case, you can take your ATM cards. So in the ATM cards, how many trials you can do with your PIN number? Suppose let me say my your ATM card or my ATM card is used, someone is using or want to use it. So in that case, they may insert a card and they should enter the PIN number. And they just guessed it and entered my name or entered my date of birth, or they would have tried something. But unauthorized or intentionally they want to withdraw the amount. So in that case, how many trials the software should give? The software will give only 3 trials. And after 3 trials, it will be blocked. So another 24 hours, we cannot use that ATM card. So that's how the authentication has been used. So then what are the password vulnerabilities? Though passwords are popularly used because of its easy usage and understanding, it is vulnerable to threats. They can be guessed, accidentally exposed, illegally transferred from one to another, etc. To avoid these various possibilities can be treated. Keeping non-guessable passwords, keep changing the passwords frequently, keep encrypted password, use one-time password, use biometric authentication. So these are to avoid from unauthorized users. So these things we can keep when we are using the password. So keeping non-guessable password. So how should be my password? No one should guess how my password is. You should think and be clever and give a keeping a non-guessable passwords. Then keep changing the password frequently. So you should keep changing your password even now and then, so that it should not be accessed by anybody. So that's what here that's what even you can see even in the banking transaction nowadays. So they asked you, if you change your passwords, so whatever previously you have used, it should not be there. So and you should give a new one. So and they ask you, keep changing your passwords. So that's what you should keep changing the passwords frequently. And keeping encrypted password. So always, so that not only letters, not only your numbers, along with that, it is better to be secure, use a special character. That's what they give whenever you are doing any login or any registration with respect to any authenticated things. So now you can see your Aadhaar card. You want to access also or do something, then there is authorized people who are allowed to modify something. So that's what here, the same way, encrypted password. And nowadays you can see to double check the security, we get a OTP. So what is this OTP? One time when I'm logging in, I'll get to my mobile. So that one time password, not only for mobile, we can change where we want this OTP to be sent, either to a mail, either to as a SMS or whatever it is, at least to check authentication. That's what one time password is used. And the last one is biometric. So biometric is what, either you can use a fingerprint or either you can use your iris. So these are the password vulnerability. Next is program threats. So what is this program threats? When the program written by one user is used by another user, misuse and unexpected behavior may occur. So suppose you think that now you people are doing your mini project and you started doing one module or half of your project, and your other partner started doing the other things, half of your other project. So then what finally you'll do, you'll combine all this and you start executing your project. So in that case, what you do, sometimes whatever you have used in the module, he may not be used the same thing. So then there will be a unexpected behavior may occur. So sometimes the following are common methods by which such behavior may occur. One is a Trojan horse. So this is one method where there may be chances of threats. A code segment that misuse its environment is called as a Trojan horse. So what is, so now along when you are installing, suppose let us assume that when you are installing some software, along with the software, some malicious users or softwares has been introduced into your laptop, then definitely your laptop may be got corrupted. That's the reason we say every time you update your antivirus. Why? Because the virus should not enter and it should not keep spoiling your softwares. It's the same way here, Trojan horse. For example, let us take an example. A hacker could have created a fake login screen on your computer. So suppose you think that in fake things, so it would have started creating just a login similar like your Gmail. Let us assume. So when your username and password is entered, so we enter when we want to enter into your Google, then what we do, we give our login and a password, and it will be stored in the data. So first time when you are doing it will be stored in the server. Because this is a illegal one, because they want to know your user and password. So then they have just given created similar page as a Google, and you have entered your username, your mail ID and password. Then what? But displays the message as login failed. So you have entered all this, and next you want to move next page, then it will say that login failed. You may feel that you have typed wrongly. So that code will not now terminate and actually login pops. You will once again give login credential and the system login. Such a code which created fake screen is Trojan horse. So what it is doing? So this is what here the program threads or program Trojan is going on. So next one is trapdoor. So the designer of a program or a system may leave a loophole in the software purposefully or purposefully. Only he or she knows it and tries to collect information from a particular user without their knowledge. This type of security breach is known as a trapdoor. Trapdoor can also be included in the compiler. That's what I just told you. So this trapdoor sometimes, then suppose you think that you are using for Java program, you need a Java compiler. So through the net, you started downloading a Java JVM or a Java compiler. Along with that, some more software is being included. So then that type of software we call it as a trapdoor. And the next one is stack and buffer overflow. A bug is introduced in the program in such a way that it tries to access stack or buffer beyond its limit. Hence, memory safety is violated. So in the same way here, the stack or buffer overflow. So what is the stack? So we know that stack we give a fixed size. So now suppose you think that I can enter in the stack only 5. So if I start inserting sixth element, it will be overflow. So then what is this overflow? The memory what you have told is only 5 and you have started using the sixth one. Sixth element you want to insert into the stack. Then it will say that the limit is out of bound. So then we can say that this is a violation of the memory because the memory is only 5 and you started using the sixth one where the space is not available. So that's what here memory thread or a program thread is. Next one we see about a system threads. So what is system threads? So that's what I told. Always when we are using any system, either a laptop or a desktop or anything, or even your mobile also. So then what we say that you should use a antivirus so that no virus enter into this. So now we can see whether the China people has where the China started this virus, coronavirus. Now it is spread throughout the countries. So now even in India also we are facing so much problem, and that's the reason because of that only we are doing the online classes. Same way now this is a system. India is having a system, and because of this coronavirus, the system has been abruptly stopped for some months so that it should not spread further. So that's what is a system threat. Most OS operating system allows process to span, create a child process, other process. In such a situation, it is possible that operating system resource and user files are misused. This method for misusing are discussed here. That's what your system threats. So sometimes or by accidentally there may be virus, or intentionally there may be virus. So that's what is a system threats. Next one is a worms. A worm is a process that uses the span mechanism to attack system performance. It creates multiple copies of itself using system resources and locking all other process from using the system. So that's what you can see here. What is this locking? So now we are doing our online classes. So when we are doing our online classes, so what we are doing, we are giving only a invitation for some people. Until unless they know that or login or credential, other person cannot enter. What is this? So this is what is called as authentication. So we are securing so that unauthorized people should not enter. So then viruses, it is a code embedded with a legitimate program. They spread into other programs and mess up the system modification, destroying the files, causing system crash, etc. That's what here we generally say antivirus, antivirus. Either it may be your desktop, laptop, or your mobile. So you should have a updated antivirus. So why do we say updated antivirus? Because any unauthorized or malicious virus should not enter your system or a lab virus or your laptops, so that that virus should not mix up with your system, or it cannot allow modification, or sometimes it not should not destroy, or sometimes even the system can be crashed. These things should be avoided in a in the operating system. All these should be taken care. So that's what we have, not only the operating system, even when you are using a network, then there are an option saying that you can block. So suppose you think that now we have internet we are using in the college. When we are using, there is one center called as a data center who will be giving you a authentication and a password. So when we are using the authentication and password, so we have to give what is our name, ID and ID number, and they automatically a password will be generated to us. So what that person will be instructed by higher ups, he will say that ban all the unauthorized or others should not use your data. So that's what your system threats are. So the same way here, even the system can be having. So we would have heard about a firewall. So what is this firewall? So firewall means no one should access or no one should use your data. So denial of a services. Here the hackers does not again gain any information but disable legitimate user from accessing the system. So that's what here the system threats. So these are the system threats, what we say, worms, viruses, and denial of a services. So that's about the security wise. So next we move on to a case study of Linux operating system. So what is this case study? So now we have told that operating system. So and just now we have discussed about the security problems. So what are the security problems we should take in? So in the Linux operating system, what is this Linux? And we have seen there are different types of operating system. We know that single user operating system, multi-user operating system. So earlier days when we were using a desk operating system or a DOS operating system, the DOS was a single user. So it was being used, only one particular system could be used. So that's what a single user. So now, because the technology has grown and we know that the internet has also has so many generations. Earlier, at least we were having 2, 3 generations. Now we know that fourth generation technology also has come into the market. Maybe in some months we may even get a fifth generation things. So in this way of increasing the technology, even multi-user operating system also has also come into existence. So that's how where we now see what is a Linux. Linux is a modern free operating system based on a Unix standards. So what is this Linux? So you would have studied a Unix operating system. What is this Unix operating system? Unix operating system is a multi-user operating system. Same way, what is this Linux is? Linux is a free operating system. At least you would have seen that some softwares are paid softwares. If I want to use any software, I should pay to them, then I have to use them. And some softwares are there where it is open source. Anybody can use, and it is not required for you to pay. So that's the reason we call it as a open source. Nowadays we call it as a open source. Same way here. So Linux is a modern. It's presently where we are using it. Free operating system. So it is not for you. It is not required to pay anything. So it is when it is developed. It is developed as a small but self-contained kernel in 1991 by Linus Torvald with the major design goal of a Unix compatibility. So when did this Linux has been done and who has developed, in which year they have developed? So it is developed as a small but self-contained kernel. So this is what self-contained kernel in 1991 by Linus Torvalds with the major design goals of Unix compatibility. So its history has been one of the collaboration by many users from all around the world. So its history has been one of the collaboration and many users from all over the world corresponding most exclusively over the internet. So this whatever we are seeing about a Linux, it is a collaboration throughout the world. So there many countries are using this. That's what the collaboration corresponding almost exclusively over the internet, because as we know that DOS operating system was something, and later we have something called as a Windows, and later we were having something called as a Windows NT. So what is this Windows NT was? In NT, network technologies of network is being implemented. When that particular operating system is used, then you can have an internet connection. Same way here, the Linux also exclusively whatever we are doing, we are using for the internet. So the same we would have seen what are the, if I say web browsers, how many web browsers are there? There are so many huge web browsers. At least 3 generally we know web browsers is a Google, one is a Mosaic, one is a E. So like this we have so many things, different people are developed or different companies are being developed. So that's the reason here the Linux is exclusively over the internet. It has been designed to run efficiently and reliably on common PC hardware, but also runs on a variety of other platforms. The core Linux operating system kernel is entirely original, but it can run much existing free Unix software, resulting in an entire Unix compatibility operating system free from proprietary code. That's what here, how this, the history of the operating system, who developed this, who, in which year. So Linus Torvalds was a person who developed the Linux, and in which year? In 1991. And what is the main use of this? Most exclusively, this was comfortable for internet, and not only for the internet, it is designed in such a way that it is efficiently and reliable on the computer systems, even in the PC. And the hardware also runs variety of other platforms. So you may use, suppose if you say that you have a core, a dual core. So what is this dual core means? You can load two different types of operating system. So that's the same way here. The core Linux operating system kernel is entirely original, and but it is run must exist free Unix softwares. So not only that, the existing one which you want to handle, that will be a resulting in a entire Unix compatible operating system free from a proprietary code. So next is design principles. So the Linux, so how was it designed and who has designed? So the Linux is a multi-user, multitasking system with a full set of Unix compatible tool. Its file system adhere to a traditional Unix semantics, and it fully implements the standard Unix networking model. So main design goals are speed, efficiency, and standardization. So the Linux is designed to be compatible with the relevant POS documents. At least two Linux distributions have achieved officially POX certification. So the Linux programming interface adhere to a SVR4 Unix semantics rather than to a BSD behavior. So what were the design principle used in the Linux? So the Linux was multi-user multitasking system. So what is this multi-user and multitasking? Multi-user means what? Many people can use at the same time. So multitasking is what? Because the work should be done faster. So then the task is divided in such a way that it can be executed parallel. That's what is called as a multitasking with a full system of Unix compatible tools. So then what is this Linux is having? It is having a full set of Unix tools, what it is there in the Unix. Its file system adhere to a traditional Unix semantics. So what we are doing, so you would have known how this Unix was before. So the same semantics, same thing is being used even in the Linux, and it is fully implements a standard Unix networking model. So then what is this networking model? That's what I just told you. Windows NT. Before that we were just having a Windows. So after the networks technology has come into existence, this is about 40 years down the line, uh, when they were saying a Windows NT. So why do we require this operating system Windows NT? That was developed for a that was developed by a Windows people for network usage. Same way here, whatever the Unix networking model is present, the same model is used even in the Linux. The main design goals, what considered in the Linux was are speed. So whatever the programming, whatever it may be, the speed also it should be executing fast. Then efficiency, it should be more efficient, and the standardization. So that's what you can see ASCII codes for all the alphabets we have. So it is common throughout all the worlds. So that is what is called as the standard. So in the same way, every software will be having some standards. So they should follow that standards. So that's what even the same way how Unix is following the standard, same way the Linux is also followed the when they were developing the Linux, they even considered the standards which should be followed along with the speed and the efficiency. And the Linux is designed to be complement with a relevant POIX document. At least two Unix distributions have achieved for the POSFIX certifications. So this is about design principles of the Linux. Next we see about components of the Linux system. So there are three major components in Linux. What are the three major components in the Linux? We have something called as a kernel, system libraries, and system utilities. So there are three major components in Linux. First one is a kernel, next one is a system libraries, and next one is a system utilization. So what is a kernel? It is responsible for maintaining all the important abstraction of the operating system. including virtual memory and process. Kernel code executes its kernel code with full access to all the physical resources of the computer. All kernel code and data structures are kept in the same single address space. Next one is a system libraries. They define a standard set of functions through which application can interact with the kernel. They also implement much of the operating functionalities that does not need the full-fledged, full privilege of the kernel code. So that's what your system libraries, and the last one is a system utilization. So these are the programs which perform individual specialized management tasks. These are the components of the Linux system. So you can see here how this Linux components are. So here the system management tools. So I have so many managements programs should be monitored. Now who will be monitoring? So then that's what the monitoring will be done by a system management program. So suppose you think that you have installed one software today and you don't want to, or after 1 month you don't want to use it, but you want to remove that. So then what you do? You go for a control panel and you go for uninstalling the program. Then you uninstall. Why do we uninstall? Because the speed of the operating system is coming down. So in that case, we start uninstalling it. So then how all this, that is the system management program will be taking care when you just click on that particular thing and you say that uninstall. So behind the operating system will be taking care of this. And the user process. So now I want to create, because I told that it is a, excuse me, sorry, user process. So what is this user process? So the various Linux system or user process, there are so many, because we say it is a multi-user multi-programming. So many people can use this. So that's what a user process is. User utility programs. So now there may be so many user utility programs where we use it. Then compiler. Now, right now, at least in your second semester, you are using some compilers. What was the compilers? For Java, you may be used a Java compiler. For data structure, you would have used a Turbo C++ or Golang C++. So then what is this? Again, this is one compiler. For networks, you may use a network simulators. So like this, there are different types of compilers where we use for that particular purpose. So in the same way, system shared libraries. So sometimes that's what I told: uninstall, install, open the file, close the file. All these operations are system files. I want to open my Java or JVM compiler. I will just click on that. So then this will be taken care by the operating system to open it. Then we have something called as a Linux kernel. So what is this Linux kernel? This is the core base of our operating system. So then loadable kernel modules. So what are modules? So we told it is multi-user, multitasking. So then all those whatever related softwares required for the operating system to work should be loaded. So that's what here loadable kernel modules. So this is a diagram, diagrammatical representation of a components of a Linux system. So I just stop here and we'll see so kernel modules and rest of things in the next lecture. So before that, before we end today's class, so we see what we have seen, what we have revision of today's class. We have started with the first fifth unit. What is the title of the covered in the fifth unit? Computer security and case study of Linux operating system. So next one is a security problem. So we have seen about what are the security problems we have. So we have told that malicious access, maybe intentionally or unintentionally or by accidentally you have used. Sometimes you can see that even in our labs also, many of the students will be using their Gmail account and in hurry because time is closed and we may say that close the system, you would have not logged off the your mail accounts. Next batch people can come and use the same system, and because it is accidentally you left it, the next person who comes and use that system should not peep into your account. Instead of peeping it into your account, he should log off. So that is what accidentally happened. And maybe sometimes there are some person where they wanted intentionally, they wanted to know what are there in your thing, to whom you are doing it. So that is what a malicious access. So the malicious access, so unauthorized reading of data. So I should not access uh, bank accounts of other person. So that's what I cannot read other person's bank detail. So that's about unauthorized reading of data. So then unauthorized modification of data. So I should not be in a position to modify because I am not allowed to modify it. So now suppose you think that there are some government rules where they say that, so at least now you can see in lockdown 4 what should be there, what should not be there. Who is authorized? Government is authorized, and we cannot modify it. So at least you would have seen some months back, if someone is coming on the road, the police were catching them and asking what was a genuine reason. If there is no genuine reason, their bikes, their vehicles were seized. So that's what here unauthorized modification of data should not be done. So next is unauthorized destruction of data. So you should not delete. So you should not spoil others' data. So that's about security. So next one, preventing legitimate use of the system. So even you should see that the person who is using it should legitimately use the system. And we have seen about 4 security measures for a system. One is physical, human, network, and operating system. Physical, any components in physically, also it should suit the thing. So now take an example, this is a pen. So the pen, the physical thing of this is, so when I'm using this pen, the refill, inside ink, this cap, and this back side, everything should be proper. If one is not working, suppose you think that the first, this plastic blue color one is broken, then you cannot write. So that's what the physical also matters here. Then human, so when I am using this pen, when I am holding this, so I may write for 1 hour, or you people may use the pen for 3 hours for writing your exam. So when we are using it, because the human is using for 3 hours, the pen should not be in such a way that it should spoil our fingers, right? That should not happen. So that's what the human is also. So then network, right now we are using an online thing. So then this should be secured. So the same way here network. Then operating system, all these whatever we are taking, this should be taken care by the operating system which we have seen. And we have even seen about the user authentication. So how are the user authentication? Maybe sometimes we may use uh, a key or a card. So now you can see every one of you, if you are a student of BMS IT, then you should, when you are entering, you should have an ID card. Not only entering, even in your exam also, when the squad comes, you should show what is a card, whether you have a valid student or a not a particular student. For that reason, they will be issuing a ID cards. So the same way here, user authentication, that may be key or a card. Next one is a identification or a password. Now I want to identify, same way you have your USN numbers to identify you in the university. The same way here, we should have a authentication. Attributes. So how to do we access? So now you would have gone for a Aadhaar card. If you want to use your Aadhaar card, at least generate starting. So then they were asking us a fingerprints. Why they were asking the fingerprints? Because it is a unique. So there will be no two people having the same features. So that's the reason they were using a fingerprint. But now you can see using a fingerprint, uh, because of this coronavirus, it is spreading the disease from one person to another person. So now we are not, yeah, all the human beings are scared to using a biometric, that is fingerprint. Then what is the alternative for this? Then we have something called as a retina. Retina means this eyeball what we have, that will be sensed, and each human being will be having a unique thing. That's about the retina. The next one is a signature. So this was a years together we are getting the signature. So putting the signature, so because uh, no one can uh, hack, or no one can forge for doing the forgery of your signature. So that's the reason. These are some of the ways where uh, authentication can be done. Next is a password. For anything, we should have a password. Passwords are used to protect the data in the computer when there are no complete protection schemes. So then password vulnerability. So how should be the password vulnerable? Keeping non-guessable password, keep changing the passwords frequently, keeping encrypted password, then one-time password, then using biometric authentication. So these are all the passwords vulnerabilities. And we have seen about the program threats. So what were the program threats? So Trojan horse, trapdoor, stack, and a buffer flow. These are the program threats. And we have seen about the system threats. So programming software. So based on the software, you may have some threats. And now with the respect to system. So with respect to system, now we may say that we have a monitor. Just we'll take an example of a monitor. So the monitor, what are the components we have? We have a glass in front. So if the glass is very big, which is not inserting, then that is one system fault. Same way, we have something called as a system threats also, worms, viruses, and denials of a service. So these are some of the system threats. And we have started with the case study of Linux operating system. And we have seen about history of the Linux history. So who has developed and in which year. And we know that in the year 1991, the Linux was being developed by a person called as a Linus Torvalds. He was a person who has developed. But what did he do? Whatever earlier we were having a Unix, keeping all the standards, everything same, he has developed this free for free. It was a free operating system, so which was based on the Unix. And why it was so? It was more compatible, or exclusively was developed for the internet, and it is more efficient and more reliable on the PC. So what were the design principles? So the design principles of the operating system are Unix, and in this case we have seen about a traditional Unix semantics, and it fully implements a standard Unix networking model. So main design goals are speed, efficiency, and standardization. And we have seen what are the compatibility with respect to the Linux, and we have seen about the components of the Linux system. So what are the three major components of the Linux system? One is kernel, one is system libraries, and one is system utilization. So what is kernel? So the kernel is a base, is like a abstract of your operating system. Then what are the system libraries? Now I say I want to open, I want to close, on the power button, close the power button, or increase the volume or decrease the volume of audio, or make it some changes, brightness, then you may make a screen bigger size. So all these operations, we should have someone to do this. Where all these will be done? These are the softwares which are developed, and that will be residing behind. That's what is called as a system libraries. Same with system utilities. So these are the programs which perform individual specified task, managed task. So now if I say the process should be open, you can see how much time we have used, what you have used, list all the folders, how many folders, what is the storage, what is the size. All this is being done. So that's what components of the Linux system. And we have seen this diagram. So the system system management program, user process, user utility program, compiler. Then system shared libraries, Linux kernel, loadable kernel modules, and components of a Linux system. So this is what we have seen, and we'll stop here. I'll stop here for today's thing, and we'll continue in the next class. Thank you.